Hey, how you doing, YouTube? This is your boy Brogi Naric back again with another episode of Brogi Naric on Films. And in this video, I'm gonna be giving my spoiler review of Joker 2019, directed by Todd Phillips. If you don't want spoilers, check out my non-spoiler review on my IGTV on my Instagram page. Link is in the description. Go to my Instagram page and you can watch it there. But for now, I'm gonna get into full spoilers for this movie. But before I do, gonna give you my grade of this film. If I was to grade this movie, I would give it a B plus, an 8.5 out of 10 in that range. Right, and that was my grade. Like I said, I really enjoyed this movie, but I do not think this is the greatest comic book movie of all time. But I do think it's very interesting, and it helps further the genre by giving different aspects of ways to help the genre morph as opposed to just becoming very stale, because this is not your average comic book movie, which is one of the reasons why I wouldn't necessarily say it's the greatest one. But Joker is a very interesting movie. I don't know if I would call it entertaining, because I wasn't like super jovial. It's a very disturbing movie. It's a very gritty, grounded, and dark film. But it's not one of those movies where I'm in the mood where I'm like, hey, when I'm just chilling on a Saturday, I'm like, hey, let me throw Joker on, that dark, depressing movie about a guy who is a nutcase and gets an entire city to join him in his madness. Because that's essentially what this movie is. Arthur Fleck is played by Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix does a great job in this film. I think he should get an Oscar nomination. Don't know if he should win, but he should definitely get a nomination. There's a lot of intensity with him. One of the things that really sort of disturbed me a lot was the whole thing where he has that uncontrollable laugh, and he just pops up at certain times. And sometimes you can't tell if it's the uncontrollable laugh or he's being a dick while he's trying to make someone feel bad. I thought that was an interesting character trait that they gave to Arthur. And Joaquin Phoenix also lost a lot of weight for this film, and he looks real skinny and bony. It's disturbing. And there's a lot of scenes of him dancing with his shirt off or him dancing in his underwear, which was very unsettling. That was another interesting character trait that they gave this version of the Joker, where he likes to dance a lot. Even when he's a clown, most of his stuff is to get people, to entertain them, is to dance. And then also he does a lot of slow dancing by himself, which is weird. And it's interesting how that plays out into the last scene of the movie when he's on the cop car dancing. But that's an interesting thing. There's other things, like I said in my spoiler review, in my non-spoiler review, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is my third favorite live-action Joker. My favorite would be Jack Nicholson from Batman '89, because he was, in my opinion, he's the closest to the comic book version of the Joker, and not just in terms of origin, but also personality and design. Heath Ledger would be my second favorite version of the Joker. Heath Ledger did an amazing job in that, and that was a different take on the Joker. And Joaquin Phoenix would be my third. Another unique, different take on the Joker, but he's lacking some of those things that make me like the other Jokers, mainly the fact that he's not funny at any point in this movie, which they make a part of his character, especially that part when he was telling his mom he's going to be a comedian, and his mom is like, even though she's sick, his mom was like, don't you have to be funny to be a comedian? Like, that was a big diss coming from his mom. And he's not like theatrical too much. He's somewhat theatrical, not really. He's not a criminal mastermind. He's not really that smart, and he doesn't have any gadgets. So it's kind of like you take the things I like about the character away from him, but then call it the character. It's like, I don't, it doesn't really do it for me. If you've seen the movie, you know that this film mostly focuses on the Arthur Fleck character, and it's a deep character dive into who he is and what he's all about. And the movie tries to make him sympathetic. Like, I was not too sympathetic towards this character, even though this movie tries. I was sympathetic to the life he lived, but I wasn't sympathetic because of certain actions he made. He's an unreliable narrator, which is very similar to the character in The King of Comedy. And they do that whole thing where you sometimes you can't tell what's real and what's a fantasy. Like when he was watching Robert De Niro, and then he imagines himself in the audience, and then Robert De Niro calls him down and gets him to talk to the crowd and tells him how proud of him he is, and he wish he had a son like him. It's fantasy, or all the stuff that involved with him and Zazie Beetz, which was really good. I'm glad they did that, because I was afraid she was gonna, in a way, be like a pseudo Harley Quinn type character, but luckily they didn't do that. She's this woman who lives in his apartment building. She lives down the hall from him. They bump into each other in the elevator, and then later on he stalks her, which was creepy. And then like she realizes he was stalking her, but then they kind of start a sort of friendship that leads to them in a relationship. But when you find out that that was all in his head, that was great. That was a great turn. That was one of those moments I was like, yes, I'm glad you did that. Because I was sort of sitting there like, I could see her falling for him if she was an idiot, but luckily she wasn't. So that was really good. The stuff with Arthur's mom was very interesting. How she keeps sending letters to Thomas Wayne and wanting Thomas Wayne to help, to talk to her because she used to work for the Wayne family for like 30 years. And then Arthur happens to look at one of her letters, and it's a letter to Thomas Wayne talking about how me and your son need help. We're not doing so well, da da da. And then Arthur's pissed because he's like, wait a second, you're trying to tell me Thomas Wayne is my dad? And she alludes to the fact that her and Thomas Wayne had an affair, but then she got fired. And then that leads to an awesome scene, which is probably my favorite scene. It's my favorite scene in the movie, where Arthur Fleck goes to Wayne Manor, and Bruce Wayne is out front, and like way out front, and he's like doing a whole little magic trick thing, and he gives him the fake flowers. And then Alfred shows up, and Alfred's like, he's pretty burly, like he's a burly guy, he's got a beard, and Alfred's like, Alfred's like, hey, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be on the premises, and shouldn't be touching on the kid. And because he touched them through the gates, and put the little smile on him, on his face. And he's like, oh, my mom used to work here. And he's like, oh, wait, you're Penny's son? He's like, yeah, and I want to talk to Thomas. And he's like, yeah, get out of here, don't come around here. And he like starts choking Alfred. And then I think, did Thomas Wayne walk up? No, Thomas Wayne didn't walk up. I think Bruce had said something that happened. He eventually lets go of him, and then they walk away. Very cool scene. And like I said, most of the scenes where you get a little more of the sprinkling of the Batman stuff, I really liked. And I also like the whole idea of him working as a clown, so the clown stuff didn't come out of nowhere. It's like he was already working as a clown, so that would explain why he would be drawn to the clown iconography. I liked how they worked that in. Arthur gets shitted on a lot in this movie. Like, he gets beat up by the kids at the beginning of the movie, which was weird. And I like how the boss was like, why would kids still, beat you up and steal a sign, which is what happened. But like, it also sounds kind of weird that would happen. Then there's the whole thing with the co-worker who gives him the gun, and of course bites him in the ass when he gets caught. He's dancing at the children's hospital, and the gun falls from under his pants leg. He gets fired, and the guy that gave him the gun was like, yeah, he tried to sell me that gun, and da da da. So that was bad. Like I said, the mom was lying to him, which eventually he kills her, because he eventually talks to Thomas Wayne, which was another good scene when they're in the bathroom at the theater after he snuck in, and he's like, look, your mom was crazy, and you're adopted. I'm not your father. She's lying. And they make it somewhat ambiguous at that point, where it's like, is the mom lying, or is he lying? Because he has the money to make certain things disappear, which I think is what his mom had said. And of course, he finds the medical records, and it seems to be that, yes, he is adopted. His mom lied to him, and she was in an abusive relationship, and the boyfriend abused him, which is one of the reasons why he's got bruises on his body, and his mental state is bad because he had a lot of head trauma as a kid. So that was really a messed up moment. Of course, he kills his mom after that in the hospital. But I haven't talked about the big scene where Arthur turns, which is he's coming home from work after he gets fired. He's on the subway train, and these three douchebags get on the train. They're picking on this lady, and Arthur's involuntary laughing kicks in, and they think he's laughing at them. So they start picking on him, and then they just start beating him up. Like, they just straight up attack this guy. They're like drunk, rich, trust fund, douchebag kids, and they start beating up on Arthur. So at some point, Arthur, while he's getting jumped on, he pulls out his gun, and he shoots one guy in the stomach, he's dead, shoots the other guy, he's dead, and the other guy he shoots in the leg, and that guy's like limping away. And then Arthur gets up, and he chases him down on the subway train, and then there's that moment where the doors open and the guy's not sure if he wants to get off the train because Arthur could shoot him, but the guy goes for it. He starts limping away. Arthur shoots him again in the other leg, and then he just gets up behind him and unloads the rest of the gun into his back and just kills the guy. Then he runs back home. He runs to a bathroom, and then this is one of those scenes again where the dancing comes in because he shuts the door. And then he just starts dancing, and then he's got the blood, he got a little bit of blood on him. He's just in the bathroom dancing and bowing and all, and it was really weird. And then he leaves from there, goes to Zazie Beetz' apartment, and then makes out with her, which of course, as I already said, did not actually happen. That was all in his mind. But that was a weird scene, but also very brutal. That was the moment where Joker was born, and then that the city reacts to it in a certain way where it was like, because the guys that he shot were rich aristocratic kids that worked at Wayne Financial or whatever the hell, and so it was kind of looked at. The guy was in a clown mask that killed them, and he was looked at as a vigilante, but he was also looked at as a hero, a hero for the poor, because the city is in decline. The garbage not getting picked up, and there's this huge, strong divide between the rich and the poor, and the clown represented a hero that's kind of taking out the rich for, shitting on the poor. So now people are wearing clown masks, and people are like really getting boisterous and anti-establishment, and Thomas Wayne is running for mayor. And there's a moment, because there was rumors that were reports talking about how Thomas Wayne in this movie is going to be really Trump-like. And he's not super Trump-like. He's somewhat Trump-like, but it's not like cartoonish or anything or super offensive. He's just a rich white guy who wants to be a politician. We don't really know what he does, but he's a business guy, I guess. There's no real semblance of him having a background in politics. There's the moment, that's sort of like Trump, where he's talking to the media and he's like, whoever shot these kids, and think that this is a good thing as a clown is, he's dressed up like a clown because he is a clown. And then the media's like, well, now people are upset at you because you're calling, the downtrodden and the poor people clowns. How do you respond to this? And he doesn't immediately apologize. He just kind of double downs on it. And I was like, that's sort of Trump-like, but it wasn't anything super crazy or offensive like the actual person has done, but somewhat, but it wasn't as bad as people were reporting it was going to be. So don't get too riled up or offended about that. Now there is some of the sort of, lone wolf shooter, woe is me type stuff in here, which was the point of the movie where I couldn't really get too into it, which was the bit where he actually is invited to Robert De Niro's show, because there's a moment when he did a performance at a comedy club, and it was trash. But Zazie Beetz was in the audience, but she really wasn't. And he fucks up, and they had a segment on Robert De Niro's show where they were making fun of him. But apparently the audience liked it enough that Robert De Niro was like, hey, let's track this guy down and probably get him on the show. So that's how he ends up on Murray Franklin's show. So he gets the invite, and this is the invite he gets after he's killed his mom, and he's getting prepared, and then the two guys from his job shows up. It's the big guy that sold him the gun, that gave him the gun, and it's this small little person who was like the manager, one of the managers there, named, I think, Greg, who show up, and he's partially maked up, got his makeup on. He just finished dyeing his hair, and once again dancing in his underwear. And so they're talking, and he has some scissors in his hand, and he just stabs the big dude he stabbed him in the eye. He like stabbed him in the neck, then he stabbed him in the eye, then I think repeatedly in the neck. And it was just blood everywhere. And the small guy's like in the corner just freaking the fuck out. Like, and then because there's a moment where I'm like, is this actually happened, or is this what he's thinking in his head? But like, no, I believe this actually happened, because there's another guy reacting, really reacting to it. And so he's sitting on the ground, and he's like, oh, don't worry, Greg, I'm not going to kill you. You can leave. So Greg, walks past the body. Greg is trying to leave the apartment, but the hook is on the door, and he can't reach it because he's a little person. So he's kind of like, Arthur, can you help me out? And he's like, yeah, I can help you out, Greg, because, you were the only person nice to me, so I'm not going to kill you. Which I guess is a message, like, if you know someone's crazy, don't be mean to them, and they might not kill you. I guess. So after that, he gets dressed up and he's strutting down the hallway, and he gets in the elevator. It's that scene from the trailer, and he's like going down the long steps, and he's like dancing down them, and they're playing Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2, and which was kind of weird because it's like he just murdered someone, but then they're gonna play this upbeat song. Like, should I get behind this guy because he just murdered this man? It was a weird feeling, and then it cuts into a classical song, and then that's when the cops who's been trying to talk to him because they suspect he's the clown guy that killed the people on the train. They're trying to talk to him, and he starts running. Then they're chasing him. He gets on the subway train because there's going to be this big protest downtown, and so everyone pretty much on the train is got clown masks and are part of the protest. And Joker's blending in. He takes the guy's mask so he can blend in further, and the cops are trying to chase him down on the train. And one of the cops shoots a guy on the train because the guy started fighting with him. And then it was done after that. Once the cop shot that one dude, the people on the train started beating the shit out of the cops. The train finally gets to its destination. It stops. It spills out. And basically those cops end up, I don't think they died, but they were like in critical condition. And Arthur leaves from there and goes to the studio to be on the show. And he talks to De Niro and Mark Maron, he's a cameo. Mark Maron's just a cameo in this movie. And he tells him, hey, when you let me come out on stage, call me Joker, because that's what you called me when you were making fun of me, so let's call me Joker. So they're doing the show, and he comes out, and the crowd are kind of into it, although De Niro's like, yeah, he's wearing clown makeup, but don't worry about that, and then it's like, it's not a political thing, and then this is when he goes on this whole rant about how society is, like, the world is crazy, and, you know, people aren't decent anymore, and he's tired of it. He's like, people who are you to say what? Because he makes a joke. He was trying to figure out a joke, and I think he said knock knock, and he's like, okay, who's there? And he's like, oh, your son's dead. He got killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And they're like, that's not funny. And he's like, well, society doesn't get to say what's funny and how does society say what's funny and what's not funny, or what's good and what's bad, when everything in this society is bad and you people just let it happen. And that, like, he's going on this rant, and De Niro's coming back at him like, look, you don't know me, you don't know what I've been through, and everyone's kind of tense, like, what's going on? And he's like, well, you know, there's something I want to say. He's like, you sound like the people supporting the guy who killed him. He's like, I'm not necessarily supporting them, but I started it because I'm the one that killed those guys on the train. And they're like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, that's not a funny joke. He's like, no, I'm not joking. I'm telling the truth. I killed those guys on the train. And everybody's kind of like, whoa. And then they keep it going. He says another thing, and before that he was planning, it seems like he was going to plan to shoot himself on TV, but what he does is he pulls out the gun and he kills Robert De Niro. He shoots him like 3 times in the head, and then that's when everyone like gets the hell out of there. And so the protest is happening downtown. After that, it's like, it's all over the news because it was the late show, but the news cuts back on, like, Murray Franklin was just killed on TV by the guy that killed the 3 guys on the train. Arthur he's in the back of the police car, and his involuntary laughing is kicking in, and the cops are talking to him like, hey, don't laugh, this is not funny. And then the cop car gets rammed by a ambulance, and then you see the person that was driving it was part of the protest. He was wearing a clown mask, and him and some other guys pull out Arthur Fleck from the back of the police car and lay him on top of the hood of the car. And you'd see the city, at least downtown, there's people wearing clown masks, they're blowing shit up, wrecking shit. And there's a moment where we go to a movie theater, and it says some movie, and it says Zorro the Gay Blade on it, which I guess cements this movie in the 80s, because it was sort of timeless, but seeing that it's the Gay Blade, Zorro the Gay Blade, it's set in the 80s. And you see Thomas and Martha Wayne with Bruce Wayne running out of the theater, and they go down an alley, and there's a guy standing there with a Joker mask on, and he follows behind him, shoots Thomas Wayne, shoots Martha, steals the pearls. Bruce, when Martha got shot, got blood on his face, and so they're dead. You know, Batman's origin has just happened. Joker wakes up, he's on top of the cop car, and he sees all this destruction, and the people are standing around him, and they're like, yeah, you're the guy that started this, you're the leader or whatever. And so Joker stands up, and he once again does his dance. He does a little dance, and then that stops there. And I guess some time has passed, and he's back. He's in Arkham Asylum, back I guess in Arkham Asylum, because they mentioned he had been locked up before. They don't specifically say it's Arkham. I'm assuming it's Arkham, but this next time it's definitely Arkham. Although it doesn't look like the the traditional Arkham. It looks more like how it did in BVS, where it looks like an actual psychiatric lab. It seems like it's all white and everything. And he's been interviewed by another black lady, another old black lady who's his psychiatrist, and she's asking him the same questions that the other lady was asking him, but this time he doesn't have the patience for it. And I forget what she said, but then the next scene is him walking out of the room. He's still handcuffed, but he's wearing all white, and you notice when every time he steps, there's a footprint because of his blood. He killed that lady, and he's walking down the hall. Then he dances at the end of the hall in front of the mirror, in front of the window. Then he walks, and then he runs back because he's getting chased by an orderly, and then he runs back again and still getting chased by the orderly. And that's the end of the movie. Then the movie stops right there. And it's like the end in the fancy font, which I thought was kind of weird. But that's the Joker movie. I thought it was fine. It was very good the way it was handled, but I didn't think it's one of my favorite. Some people are like, it's the best movie of 2019. Personally, it's not my favorite movie of 2019, but it's a very interesting movie, and I suggest you check it out and make up your own opinion. Pretty sure this could get somewhat controversial. I'm not here for all of that, nor do I really care. I was not offended by anything, nor was I super pro anything in this movie, because I thought it was kind of weird at moments, especially when he was going on his rant, which I have to rewatch again, because nothing in that rant I was 100% behind. Certain things I could get, like when he's like, how society's being so wishy-washy on what's good and what's bad, but then there was some other stuff I was kind of like, I don't know if I can get behind that. But that's the movie. Those are my thoughts on Joker. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos. Peace.
Finish this thought. I am a slave too.